Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Fix This Controller. As you can see, this controller is having a bunch of screen problems, so we are going to dive into it and replace the front shell module. Alright, so we've already split the case. If you need more information about that, I'll put the link to the other video below. This is going to be the hardest fix out of all of them because it requires you changing everything over to a new plate. Here's how the new plate comes. So when you have a screen problem like that one, you're going to have to change out the whole front plate. We have to first disconnect the antennas, the gray ones that come along the edges here, so that we can separate the halves. Okay, so let's grab the smallest Phillips screwdriver we can find. We have to take off this case cover right here. It's 3 tiny screws. Make sure you have your magnetic tray ready to hold all these. Tweezers will also be your best friend because there's a lot of them that they unscrew but they don't come all the way out. So we're taking off the 3 screws for the bracket, the antenna bracket. There you go. Alright, so just for reference, if the case is like this, the battery cable's on this side right here. The antenna that comes directly from it goes to the bottom. The bottom, second from the bottom. And the opposite antenna that goes over here with the other battery goes the second from the top. The white one is all the way on the bottom and the black one is all the way on top. There we go. This one's under the board for some reason. You can disconnect all of the antennas because eventually they're going to have to come off anyways. Okay, so now that you can pull this gray off, you can pull this gray off and you can slide this out of the way. Always keep these magnetic trays because screw management is very crucial. First I'm going to start off by removing this black the USB connector and the USB-C connector and this ribbon cable. This is the only one that I've ever seen that has this extra cable that comes along the top. Usually it comes along the bottom and is taped right here. So this might just be a different build, but you're either going to have the one that comes along the bottom, it's taped right here, and you unscrew these two, or I guess this one's got an extra board on it, which I've never seen that before. So let's just take it all off. Handy dandy electric screwdriver to save the day. Make sure we got the right one. This top one is a 1.5 hex. That loosens this up, the USB, then the ribbon cable's loose. Okay, so now we have to get this black bracket off right here. Pay attention to the screw size because they're all the same hex, but they're not all the same length, okay? So it's 1. There's 2 back here between. 3 in the crevice. Oops. And these are all, well, no, see, there you go. So the one in the middle of the crevice is the shortest one. The ones out here and then the inside of this part are the 2 longer ones. So it's important to keep all of your screws together. one more up here. It's hard to see in there. That is a shorter one. And there's one more up here that pins the board down as well. And that is the long one. Regular, regular, short, short, super long. Pull the bracket right off. Put it to the side. Since we're switching everything over to the new shell, we don't want to take all the ribbon cables off, so don't remove any ribbon cables yet, because there is a way to minimize, how many screws you have to take off. So what I would do now is time to remove the heat sink and the motor fan. You can go ahead and unplug the motor right here on the side. It's just plugged right into the main board. Okay, we're gonna grab, I think this is a, let's see what size, oh, same size, 1.5. I believe these ones are all the same size. Yep, they're all the same size. Now that you have all those ones out, you should be able, let's pull back this black tape real quick because it's gonna keep it pinned down. Now we should be able to just grab the silver heatsink and lift it up. It's got, what is that? Thermal paste on the back of it, so be careful, it gets everywhere. All right, so you kind of want to start taking things off so that you leave the main board with all the connectors on it. So we're going to start here on the bottom. This is the right one here. We're going to remove this cable. This goes to the LED light bar, and I believe that's GPS on the bottom. All of the small screws for the ribbon cable brackets are the same size. The ribbon cable bracket itself, though, some of them are longer, some of them are really long, some of them are slightly smaller. So unplug that. I tend to keep this assembly together right here. So this is the RF board and the LED pad right here. So like we're just going to remove all the screws that pin it down, remove this from the main board right here, and then we'll go from there. Okay, that loosens the board. You don't have to do the two in the center because that's just holding down the GPS. I think it's a GPS module on the other side. There we go. So that board is loose. Now we need 1, 2, 3, 4 for this other board, the RF board in the middle. These are all the same size. Almost all of the ones that hold down these boards are the same size screw. Okay, so that should loosen those two boards up. This is the infamous UV glue right here. So this is what glues they use to hold down certain connectors. If you take a pair of cutting pliers and you just squeeze it on the side gently, you can just break it off. Sometimes it's not so easy to get to. There we go. Sometimes it just lets loose and you can trim it off after. So there we go. The RF board and the GPS module together. If you try to do it while it's still connected with that one ribbon cable, you can tear it easily. So that's why we take that one off. Now, my rule of thumb is that the main board should retain all of the connections, all the ribbon cables. So what we do is we disconnect each of the different modules from the ribbon cable and go on from there. So we can first change over the main board to the new case, and that will free up space to work on the rest of it. Okay, so whatever main connection goes out of the main board. So this one's done for the GPS module. This one right here for the keys is next. A little bit of UV glue on there. Pop it off with your pliers. Use something super delicate to pull up the black tab on the side here. It breaks very easily. I don't want to tell you how I know. Pull it out. There we go. Nice and easy. Sometimes they're double stuck tape. This one doesn't seem to have as much as the other models that I've worked on. You do not have to remove this one right here. This, we can take this all out as one. So there's there. So all the ribbon cables follow it from the board. That's all clear. That's all clear. We have one that comes up here that goes down to this one, to the right buttons. Cutting pliers, a little bit of UV glue, pop it off. Something soft. Tab up, pull the ribbon cable out. And that is it. The main board. If you're changing a main board, this is where you would just put in the new board. So we're just going to take it out right now. There's only a few screws and put it into the other shell. One down here. One here. And one there. All right, so these can go with the other board screws. Word of caution, there's one connection. You can see it right here. This ribbon cable right here, and this, there's two connections. This ribbon cable and this ribbon cable have to be taken off of the main board because of the fact that that's what connects it to the screen. So same process, it's just UV glue. Pop it off. This one's so small you want to use like some tweezers for the win. There we go. Up. You can grab it with closed tweezers by the back of the ribbon and kind of like just slide it out. This one's got more UV glue on it, cutting pliers. Make sure you don't hit the ribbon. There we go. Once you get the right angle on them, they just crumble. Okay, so it came off. We'll clean that up before we put it all back together. This one crumbled off. That one's stuck on there still. Okay, so this is disconnected. This is disconnected. Now we should be able to pick up the main board. Ribbon cable is stuck down with double side tape, which there's none on the other one. So pick it up and then pull it out. Oh, there we go. See, we have two antenna cables right here that need to be taken off the board. There's two of them. The top one goes to the left side antenna. Bottom one goes to the right side antenna. I've done this countless times and I still forget about these in the top corner. Okay, now we should be able to grab the board, pick it up, pull it out. See? There's the main board. All the ribbon cables still connected for the most part. Be careful with them not to tear them. So we'll transfer the main board over to the new shell real quick. We need to take off this ribbon cable, so you can just use your fingernail and just lift up the black tab. Always be gentle. Take it out, put it directly into the other board. There's a line on the ribbon cable. You kind of want to make sure that line gets as close and as even. You know, it kind of gives you a gauge on how it's put in there. Put on my light here because it's hard to see sometimes. There we go. You'll hear that pop when it goes down. That's a good connection. This one already has the ribbon cable from this one. So remember the one that we removed on the top of this one already has it. So for right now, we can take the main board from the original. We can lower it into place. It's the exact opposite of the other one. So you have to kind of like put the top in first. Line up the holes for the charging and the USB connections. And then lower it down onto the pegs. When we're doing this at this point, let's put some of these screws back in it here. Double check this real quick. So now it's held down. Let's see if we can remove this UV glue. Shouldn't keep us from... There we go. Put this connector back down. Satisfying little snap. This one can be a little tricky. This is the small ribbon cable. Oh, first time, first try. Push the black connector lock down. Boom, there we go. So that's been transferred over. We can go ahead and put the new shell over to the side and start working on the parts for the right side. It's better to transfer them as you go, because at this point, if you want to do all of these at the same time, you're going to have so many screws that it's going to become overwhelming. So yeah, so we should take off the antennas next. So the bottom right antenna just unravels here. The antennas are just glued down with some more of the UV glue, so you can, it's always just like pinned down, tacked to one side, so you can just pop it off. Pull the antenna out. It's a little sticky on one side. Go back over to the other case. Just put it right back in. Hook them up later, but make sure they get underneath these ribbon cables like they were. There's these little tracks inside, so we can pull them up. There we go. If you don't hear them pop on like that, usually they're not connected. Now we can take off the right shell, or the right antenna. We're going to stop here real quick. We're going to pull this one off of here. The little shield, the little clear thing that covers the LEDs to make them glow. Light bar. Yeah, this one's a little bit different than, for some reason. Maybe this is an earlier build. Usually there's like a piece of foam that sits right there. Okay. Now we should put the RF module back in here just to get it out of the way so we don't have too much taken apart at one time. Okay, RF board's back in, GPS board is back in. Take off that UV glue, get it out of there. Plug this back in. That's all connected, everything's connected. We can go ahead and put this one back on. Sometimes they're easy and sometimes you have to sit there and fight with them to line these square ribbon cables up. But see, that one was easy. So we'll go ahead and put the covers back on. Quick thing I like to do with the covers, I like to use like really sharp tweezers. I'll put the tweezers inside of the hole for the screw and then put that into the hole for the thread. And that holds them in place while, because these screws are so tiny, it holds them in place while I put the screw in. And even then it's still hard, see? But it's always nice to have an extra set of hands. So there we go, see? Once I did, pull the tweezers out, all lined up. Boom, there we go. That tweezer trick really saves some time. Okay, so those are all the things that have been moved over so far. We're gonna wait to put this black bracket on until we have the thumbstick modules in place. Okay, so now we can move this is the new shell. we can move the new shell out of the way and start working on the other modules. So they're pretty self-explanatory. There's just multiple different screw types when you get into this area right here. The button board. Let's screw on these PCBs. Okay. So we went ahead and took off all these screws. This board is the hardest one out of these to get through because this directional pad is actually pressed into this board. So I like to just grab it by the ends of it and kind of just try to wiggle it out. You'll see that the board is loose, but it's still connected over here. So I take a flathead screwdriver and I put it behind this paddle and I pull back. It's still hard. So let's see. Try to get some leverage on it. Yeah, because that button, there you go, you can hear it pop. So there you go. So yeah, using a flathead on the back of this tab, pull it up and you'll release this board. You can see this peg that's in there right now. We don't have to get that out. So this, well, yeah. So this peg that's right here, that's stuck in this part of it right here, we have to use some pliers, pull it out because that goes into here. That's the control stick. We're just grabbing that little peg out of the back of this thing. See? Little peg right here. A little square peg goes into the directional. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now we have to unscrew the thumbstick. Be careful when you're doing that, getting the other board off, because there's a ribbon cable that connects them. It's very delicate. If you have to, just remove it, but don't force it and rip that cable out. So just be cautious of it. 1, 2, 3. 4. And then these vertical ones. So up until this point right here, they were all the same size screws. I believe they start getting smaller as you get into this corner with the button. Oh, yep. So yeah, you can see that one's considerably smaller, so we'll put that off to the side. This should be loose. Let's see. Push from the front of the joystick to pop it loose. Are we missing one still? Yep, we are missing one. Looks to be the same size as the others. Yep. So just that one in the far corner is smaller. Push all of this out as one assembly. Careful with the ribbon cables. Okay, there we go. So now we have the button and the thumbstick. Go ahead and pull this up and out. We'll do those next. But so you'll see that there's membranes and buttons that need to come out of this controller. There we go. So this is the old one. Put it off to the side. Bring the new one over. Now that those are lined up, that's the hardest part to get in there. So let's lay the button assembly down. Perfect. While you have it held right here, test the buttons. That's not working correctly. And then put that little tiny one back in so that we don't mix it up or forget to, because that's the button, so it needs to hold it tight. Perfect. Okay. Thumbstick is sitting correctly. Okay, so now here's the button board. We can go ahead and line it up, and then make sure, remember we have that square peg, so make sure that square peg push this onto that square peg. You can see it slide. Make sure you're getting the sound of the buttons or the direction pad. Okay, so the whole right thumbstick assembly has been switched over. Feels good. All right, so getting there. Now we have to take off. Oh, you know, let's do the antennas real quick. Same thing on the old shell. Here's there's 4 little boards on these ones, but I think the bottom 2 are like RF blockers or something. More glue. Make sure you clean off the glue because sometimes it'll keep it from sitting all the way in the bracket. Okay, there goes this one. Okay, there we go. Travel over to the other side. Does this one have any? Yeah, it's on the back side. There we go. There's these little notches that have to line up on them, so sometimes they won't sit flat, and so you have to make sure you line them up correctly when you're putting them back in. There we go. Okay. Now the last section, the other joystick and board and beeper. Okay, so all the screws out of this board. Nope, actually I lied. There's one underneath here. Out of the little beeper as well. 4 for the thumbstick. What's weird to me is that these other 2 screws in the top that I'm going to do after this, they're actually hex. Hex, what is this, like 1.5? So a majority of the screws in here are Phillips head, but for some reason these ones are hex on this part, and they're long too, so we'll put them off to the side. And the bottom one's at some super weird angle too, so. Okay. That should remove this whole assembly. Pushing the buttons from the front side to get them up out of there. This whole thing should pick up. Pull the speaker off. A flathead. Get it out. There we go. There's the whole assembly right there together. We have to make sure we take these buttons and membranes from the controller. Put the old shell off to the side. These little membranes get tricky sometimes because when they fall off, they're very hard to get back on. And don't really know which way they go. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that's a little tricky. So hold that down while it's supposed to be there. Slide this into place. Ensure that it still clicks. Get a screw in it. Actually, you know what? That one is wrong. That one is one of the special ones. So technically, I did that wrong. So let's just pin it here real quick. All right, so this 3 on this side need to be 4. This is the special one. Okay. Perfect. sure you don't pin the ribbon cables down. Line the buttons up, push the buttons through. Put the speaker back into the speaker crevice. There we go. Put the 100 screws back in. I tend to like go around it and put different screws in at different times so that like kind of like tightening a tire. So nothing gets bound up on one side. Everything kind of gets put in as one. Missed one over here. Everything else is looking good. Now we can take off the top plastic. So just grab it from the, I push it from the back. You could push the little ring on the inside. Pop them out. I tend to clean these off for the customers too. All right, now we got them all washed off and clean. All right, now they're all clean. So let's put it. You'll see that there's certain notches. They line up with the notches on here. Okay, there we go. So we will go ahead and grab the heat sink here. Push this stuff to the side. Get these antennas out of the way. There we go. Line it all up. Make sure it's pressed down. These are the bigger hex. Okay, heat sink is back on. We're gonna go ahead and grab the black bracket. All right, so when we put in this black bracket on, remember there's one long, well, there's two long screws, but one of the long screws goes in the top. The two short screws go in the middle. Two other screws go and then these two hold the top USB-C connection. There you go. The black bracket is back on. Everything has been swapped over. Let's double check all of our connections. This is the fan cable, the fan power cable. Pull the fan back in. Double check all of our ribbon cables. This cable needs to be hooked up still. Okay, slide that in, line the line up. Push the black tab down, all good. Or else here, the white antenna needs to come down. Here. It comes here. The white goes all the way to the bottom. Okay, here's the black one. The black one goes under the heat sink. Sometimes if you do it before, you get blue thermal compound all over it and it's messy, so I do it after. Feed it through around the bend. These little side little notches that can hold it in. Okay, there's two of them. Goes through there, comes back around, and goes straight into the top one. So the top one's black, the one that's closest to the charging ports. The furthest one down is white. Put this tape down. Before I change over the tops, and when I reassemble it, I will power it on and test it real quick. So you don't have to hook up the antennas to power it on to test it. You just have to hook up the power and this the main board ribbon cable. If you need more insight, check out the video of my assembly and disassembly. I'll link it below. We're not screwing any of the brackets in, or the it should start beeping because it has to be calibrated. Oh no, the main board wasn't changed. Never mind. Let's see how it goes. There we go. So that is how you change the main screen. So now that we realize that, or now that we've got it all hooked back up, we can finalize the antennas, put that bracket back on, and then change over the tops. This antenna right here is the one that comes down right below the black one. And then it routes back here. You want to make sure you route them because when you close the case, you can pinch the antenna cables between the heat sink and the back and possibly destroy them. Okay, so that one's hooked up. This one comes over here, goes underneath the ribbon cable, in through this slot. Alright, so we have all the antennas hooked up. We can put these brackets back on. So, good old tweezer trick. Put the tweezers through one of the holes and into the thread. I'll let it hold it for you. Grab one of the smallest screws known to man. Why not? Second set of tweezers. One. Move the tweezers. Last screw on the RF board bracket. There we go. Antenna's secured. All right, time to close it up. This is easily the hardest part, is to get this thing done correctly. So this is where I developed the tweezer trick, because you have to hold this shell in place while you hook up this ribbon cable. Luckily this one goes in really well. And you have to put the bracket on it. Thus the invention of the tweezer trick. So yeah, the tweezers hold it while you try to finagle the screw in. Luckily you got it first try. Move the screw. Awesome. Okay, now plug in the power. Line her up. When you're closing them up, always make sure that there's nothing impeding the joysticks, because sometimes if the wires go to the side, it'll keep it held or you won't be able to move it freely. Get it lined up. Push, push, push. If you want to see the complete assembly and disassembly process, there's a video on I'll put it in the link below so that you guys can see that if you want to. Don't worry about getting it all closed up right now, because once you put the screws in, it will tighten all up for you. There we go. See? Double check to make sure it works. There you go. It's working. Let me go ahead and button it all up real quick, and then we can change out the top. So the last thing we have to do is swap out these connectors from the previous shell right here. So it's pretty straightforward. Smallest screwdriver you have. Sometimes holding the controller is the hardest part while you're taking screws out of it. Alright, so this one's 3 wide. Here's the last one. There we go. It's easier on the new one because it'll stand up by itself. There we go. The screen is repaired. If you want to see the rest of the process on how I reattach the bumpers and the grips, make sure to check out the video below about opening and closing the shell.